ever had someone that had such a monumental impact on your life that it changed everything? Join me today for today's Straight Talk About Sales as I share some of the lessons that I still apply both to my life and my business from one of my greatest mentors ever. This is Dr. Nadia, founder of the Doyen Agency and creator of Straight Talk About Sales. Tune in. It is quite fitting that March has been deemed Women's History Month because that is the month that my maternal grandmother was born back in 1920. And as I have been thinking about her leading up to this month and celebrating her birthday, which was March 16th, it has just brought back so many memories of the impact that she's had and just her influence in my life, both as an individual, as a mom, as a business owner. And today I wanted to share some of those lessons as we continue to celebrate women and Women's History Month, but also just thinking about, how you live your life and build your business, right? Because those two are quite integrated and it can be challenging sometimes in dealing with that. And so my grandmother, her name was Dorothy Myrick Henry. She passed away in 2014. I remember that day. It was a very, very hard day for me. And her influence, though, I look at me, I look at how I operate, I look at how I flow. And if you read my book, Leading Like a Lady, many of you already know the story about Granny and just how, there would be, I truly do not believe, maybe, possibly, I don't believe there would be a Dr. Nadia. I still would have been doing something fabulous, I'm sure, but just that part of my life and my story was so impactful because Granny had that impact and she and I had that conversation, and me earning my doctorate and going to get all the colors was a promise that I made to her when I was 17. And education was so big for her because being a Black woman raised in the South, she was born in Georgia. At that time, she was born in 1920. It was just a very challenging time. And so education for Black people was not the way it is now. We have access to so many things that we take for granted that, just a few short generations ago where it's not even an option. And so I remember her and my grandfather just really, that was so big. And I don't know why, my grandmother had 10 children and a lot of grandchildren. I have a lot of cousins, a lot of cousins. And so I don't know why. I don't know why I was that one where she and we were down like 4 flat tires, and she just saw something in me early on, as a baby. And it was, just really having that influence in my life to that point where I made that promise. And then I decided to fulfill it in the hopes, and thank God it happened, of being able to earn my doctorate and truly earn all the colors, in her words, while she was still alive. But anyway, I wanted to share some of the life lessons, just a few, because there were many. My grandmother lived to be 93. So yeah, she was in my life for a really long time. So the first thing that I, when I think about Granny, aside from all the colors, right? That's our thing, is the first thing in the life lessons I wanted to share and words of wisdom was anything worth having is worth fighting for. And I remember Granny sharing this with me. I was in college and I was really just in a space of just being unsure about a lot of things. And I was trying to make a lot of decisions as a 19, 20-year-old. I was like, Granny, I got to have my whole life figured out and planned out right now. And we were just, we would have those conversations. And I just remember her saying, anything worth having is worth fighting for. And I don't know, Granny shared a lot of words of wisdom with me, and that one stuck. And I thought about those times in my life, and particularly in my business, when I wanted to throw in the towel. How many of you can relate to that? You've been in business or you're just getting started and things may be going along smoothly, or it may be a rocky season, because trust me, no matter what, you're going to run into some roadblocks or obstacles. some speed bumps. And I was just like, I don't know. It could have even, I think I had a period, which is really ironic, where I was like, I don't even know if this whole college thing is for me. Like I was in a space where it was just a lot going on. I don't remember the exact situation because I mean, I was 19, 20. So God only knows. And she just, she just said that. And so life lessons, as I look at my life and I look at my life in totality. So not just limiting it to business or sales, but also to my roles in life, like as a wife and a mom and a daughter and a friend. And I remember when I first, in the early years, so probably maybe 2 years in, Toby and I sat down because we were just trying to figure a lot of things out. And with me being an entrepreneur, that was a major transition. But one thing I was clear about was I was like, I don't want to build a successful business at the expense of my marriage. And we just, it took us a while to get on the same page. And again, those words came back like, anything worth having is worth fighting for. And so we fought to really find our groove. And it took some time. Like this was not, one time conversation. There were things that we had to figure out as a couple and then as individuals. And then there's just so many ways to apply this to life and to business. And then even, thinking about our battle, if you will, for our daughter. And it wasn't always easy. And I remember those words of Granny on those days. And I was like, why? Or we just been thrown another curveball. And it was like, you know what? Anything worth having is worth fighting for. And the life of this child and her well-being and her safety is definitely worth fighting for. And I think that was also when I realized, Nadia, I don't care what you say, and I don't care what title you give yourself or what she may call you, but there's a mama bear in there. And it came out, it's been out. But again, and how does all of that integrate into my business and still leading a business and a team and making an impact, still being a good wife and a mom and all of that integrating. And so just having, oh my gosh, the conversations I wish Granny and I could have now, right? At this season of my life. But yeah, so that's been and that is just one thing that I constantly, I'm listening and just, in the back of my head on those days. And I'm like, forget it all. I'm out. And it's like, and then also the things that, what? You shouldn't pick this fight, like, right, pick your battles. So it works both ways. I know I talked a lot about the things we're fighting for, but there are also some things that, not worth that fight, and you just let it go and reserve your energy. The second thing was my grandparents, I should say, but Granny definitely, because we just had that relationship, she was so big on education. And in some ways, definitely formal education. Obviously, I have a doctorate. I worked hard for that puppy, but also just really learning and growing and evolving as an individual. And so one thing she just drove home constantly was get your education, because that is one thing no one can ever take away from you. Get your education. And so that was one of those life lessons as well. And so how does that apply to business? How does that apply to sales, Dr. Nadia? Well, one is there's so many things happening. I was just having a conversation recently with a colleague, and we were just talking about how things have shifted so much over just the last 2 years. We won't even talk about years prior, but just over the last 2 years, how things have shifted. And we've had to be nimble, right? And pivot, and some more than others, depending on what your business is. And we're just of the mind that we don't know that it's over, right? So we're still learning, we're still adjusting, we're still getting that education. And whether it's formal or not, when you are building your business, when you're learning the skills, sales is a skill. When you're learning the skill of sales and you're really learning how that applies and how what different methodologies or what different strategies you're going to implement in your business, you're learning how to do that, or you're hiring a team who have been educated or experts in those areas so that your business can continue to grow and evolve. Because if you are not flexible or able to make adjustments, as we have all seen, then you put your business in danger of becoming extinct. And so it just continues to reinforce that, which I feel like at this point is just natural, as part of who I am, of being a lifelong learner, of continuing to look at different ways and being open and not feeling like I've arrived and I know everything. I have strong opinions about some things, trust me, but I'm definitely open and just continuing to look at, the different trends or different things or how I can get better, not only as a salesperson, but as a leader, as a person, as a business owner, really learning different business strategies so that it can be stronger and better. So maybe sales isn't it, but financial management might be a thing, right? So you have to look at all those different things and not get to a place where I've arrived. And if you were to see my full office and then also just our house, our home, we have lots of books and lots of training and lots of education. Like my husband and I, that's just a big part for us. And again, it's not just formal education. We educate ourselves on a lot of different things. But I think it's important that you continue to find the ways that work for you. We are readers in this house, but audiobooks and other ways, like we won't even go down that rabbit hole, but there are, just having an emphasis on education. And that was really huge for Granny. And that was one of those lessons that really stuck with me, clearly. And then the final one, number 3, was, this whole thing about legacy. As I have really been looking at why I do what I do and the impact it has. And I remember part of the conversation I had when I first launched the agency, it was about legacy. And at that time, I wasn't even sure what that meant, right? I know legacy obviously goes just beyond your immediate family. And for us, it definitely had to go that because at the time, we didn't have any children. So, and we weren't planning to have any children. So it was like, okay, but legacy was still important to me because that was a value that I learned from Granny. And her and family and legacy were so huge. And it was such a big deal for her, particularly for family and for us to continue to grow and to live. And so when I think about part of why I do what I do is when you learn the skill of sales and you really get it down and you get support, because at some point your business is going to grow. And if you ever decide to scale, to have some support in sales and you start to generate consistent revenue in your business and you're no longer just stressed out all the time about where's the money coming from? How am I going to pay the bills? It really does open up that time freedom. So then again, because a lot of times I mention 10 and team and people are like, I don't even know. Right? I don't even know how we're going to make that happen, but that frees you up. You buy your time, right? Now you have the income, the revenue to buy your time and get support both in your business and in your personal life. And now you're able to really build legacy, whether you sell the business, whether it just frees you up to be able to create memories with your family or with yourself. It just does something big. And so legacy has just been one of those things that I've been thinking a lot about, especially since we've become parents. But, that is one of those things and one of those values and one of those life lessons that I learned from Granny. And I remember speaking at her funeral and oh my gosh, that's probably the hardest talk I've ever given. My hands were shaking. I was an emotional mess, but I felt like there was a message that I needed to share with the attendees and more importantly with my family, because it was very tumultuous, a very tumultuous time when Granny passed away. And one of those things was this legacy of love. And as a leader, as a business leader, as an influencer, someone that is making a difference or an impact in the marketplace, love plays a big role in how that all plays out. And it also, again, ties into not only values, but legacy. And so I remember having that, sharing those words and just really encouraging my family and in some ways admonishing us as a family to figure out how to move past the spot that we were in. And that was going to require us to have some hard conversations and make some difficult decisions because boundaries are also important, right? And not everyone wants to cooperate. So let's be clear. It was just impactful, obviously, because it was one of those things, again, that the words and the wisdom to live by that and the impact that Granny had in my life and continues to have in my life and in my business and how I show up in the world and how I show up as a leader and how I show up as a wife or a mom, you can see it there. And so today On March 16th, 2022, on what would have been my granny's 102nd birthday, if she were still alive. She's been gone now for 8 years. I just wanted to share those words of wisdom with you, but also to just honor this amazing woman. Oh my gosh, the stories I could tell about Granny, and to just share some of that with you as you think about your business and your legacy, and what happens on the other side, right? Because one thing I can guarantee you in this life is that we will all pass away. We will all die. But that doesn't mean that your impact, your influence, your knowledge, your wisdom, your legacy has to die with you, right? And so I think it's important that as we're looking at our businesses and we're thinking about growth and scale and team and cash flow and all the things that come with it, that we pause and really think about, what do I really want to leave behind? And how do I want my family to move and function and flow long after I'm gone? And so I wish long life on all of us. I'm not saying any of us are leaving anytime soon, but it's definitely a conversation worth having. And obviously, given the times, been having those conversations probably more than we care to have them. But yeah, there's that thought of legacy. And that's definitely one of the big, big life lessons that Granny left for me. In so many different ways. And so today I challenge you to take some time, if you haven't already, to think about legacy. What does legacy mean to you, right? We all have our different definitions. And what type of impact do you desire to have both now while you are living and once you are gone? And work towards that. There's so many things that can distract us. There's so many things vying for our attention. There's just so many things, right? And so I just wanted to share words of wisdom from one of the most impactful mentors in my life ever. And boy, do I miss her something fierce. So I would love to hear from you. What are some of your words of wisdom? What is a quote or a mantra, words that you live by? I would love to hear. We've been sharing them all month. On Twitter, on Instagram, from different women in our network. But I want to hear from you. So please share them below in the comments, send us an email. You can email us at hello@thedoyenagency.com. Like however you want to contact us, let us know. I truly want to hear from you. And happy Women's History Month. I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.